U.S. Representative Mark Takano, a Democrat of California, said all this is long overdue. And he added that, quote, millions of employees are working long hours without fair compensation. Yada, yada, yada. So USA Today goes on to explain how this works, and it will go into effect. It was Obama's idea. And then Miami Trucker sent me something tonight. And his cover email was pretty intense. I'll get to that in a second. But what he sent me was a link to an article on Yahoo News that House Speaker Paul Ryan has criticized that new rule that allows more Americans to receive overtime. And he says the regulation, quote, hurts the very people it alleges to help. Well, that's right. If you make more money and get more respect for the time you're putting in, it's going to hurt you. How's it going to hurt you? Well, he doesn't say, but according to him, it will. Under the new rule, those who earn a salary of less than $47,000 a year will automatically qualify for overtime pay of time and a half if they work more than 40 hours a week. Previously, the number was 23,000. Anybody who earned more than 23,000 did not get overtime pay. So they're doubling it from 23,000 to 47,000. If you make less than 47,000 and you work a 50-hour week, you're going to be paid for 10 hours of overtime at time and a half. And the rules will affect about 5 million workers starting December 1st. Ryan said, quote, this regulation hurts the very people it alleges to help. Who is hurt most? Students, nonprofit employees, and people starting a new career. By mandating overtime pay at a much higher salary threshold, many small businesses and nonprofits will simply be unable to afford skilled workers and be forced to eliminate salaried positions complete with benefits altogether. For the sake of his own political legacy, President Obama is rushing through regulations like the overtime rule that will cause people to lose their livelihoods. We are committed to fighting this rule and the many others that would be an absolute disaster for our economy. Now, Ryan is not the only critic of this new rule. Rob Nichols, who is the president and CEO of the American Bankers Association, said the new rules, quote, will be harmful to bank employees and the banks who employ them, and as usual, smaller banks will be hit the hardest. Oh, woe is us. Woe is us in the banking industry. One more effort to prevent us from stealing and ripping off and taking every goddamn dime on the table. You're going to give it to the employees? That's not the capitalist way, Obama, you filthy socialist, you. Now, Judy Conte, who's the federal advocacy coordinator for the National Employment Law Project, which is what this is all about, Ms. Conte said that the new rules do not require employers to reduce career opportunities and flexibility, as Ryan tries to convince people. She dismissed the notion that the new rules will cause workers to, quote, lose their livelihood, as Ryan states. If demand for a product or a service leads employees to work overtime, she said, then the market should be able to compensate workers accordingly. Oh, what a radical idea for some rat bastard like Paul Ryan and these Republicans. Compensate workers accordingly? Where in the hell did that come from? Honest John the Commie someplace? Where did that come from? Fair compensation for labor? Holy shit! The country's going to hell. Ms. Connie said, quote, an employer that needs to take away responsibilities and opportunities from workers is a bad employer. Nothing in the overtime rules require people to take away responsibilities. A good employer should always be looking for ways to continue progression of their work. But it's just staggering to me that Obama, first of all, that Obama has to use executive authority to do something like this. You know, you would think that, oh, I don't know if you would think or not, but I would think that the Congress a long time ago would have built into the federal wage laws an escalation clause that said as the cost of living goes up, the wages go up, so that we would get away from what we're facing now. People's wages today, when you compare them to what people were making in the early 70s, have not progressed. They have diminished when you factor in inflation. So, why is that? I mean, doesn't capitalist America want a workforce that can afford to buy the products? I was going to say the products they manufacture, which was Henry Ford's idea when he decided to pay people, what was it, Kathy, $5 a day or something? But that's not true anymore. The products a lot of them are not made here. They're made in China. But wouldn't you think that in the great United States of America, the exceptionalist United States of America, that we would want to make sure, at least our leadership would want to make sure, that if you work 45 hours, you're paid for 45 hours. And the extra 5 would follow the guidelines set out how many decades ago that said time and a half for overtime. If you would think that, you'd be wrong. That's not how the system works anymore. You want a job? You want a job? You'll do exactly what we say. And Walmart will lock the door at 10 o'clock at night, so the people who are supposed to go home have to stay and work off the clock, stocking the shelves, doing this, doing that, yada, yada, yada. And of course, that has a name: wage theft. Workers of the world unite. The only thing you have to lose are your chains.